We are born free, and we will die free. The time in between, though, that's complicated. In that time, governments, institutions, and our egos will limit our ability to find true freedom in this life. These are real stories of real people overcoming the odds, persevering in justice, and unlocking their potential. Welcome to Finding Freedom. Here's your host, John Odermatt.
Hey, welcome in to a new episode of Finding Freedom here on the Lions of Liberty Podcast Network. And I got a great guest for you who I will introduce momentarily. Before I do that, as I always do, I want to remind the listeners out there that if you like this show, please subscribe to it. Two ways to subscribe, or I should say two different feeds you could subscribe to on your favorite podcasting platform, either to the Lions of Liberty Network feed, where on that feed you get this show, you get Brian's show every Wednesday, Mean Age Daydream, along with Meme Wars on Fridays, or subscribing to just the Finding Freedom solo feed, and you just get me every Monday delivered to your phone, your little listening device that you carry around in your pocket. Also, I want to invite you to join the Lions of Liberty Pride. Of course, that is the group that we have where we provide bonus content, discounts on merchandise, and a bunch of other perks. You can join through Patreon or Locals. Patreon is patreon.com/Lions of Liberty or lionsofliberty.locals.com. I have a new mic set up today, a new background, a lot of stuff changing here. Hopefully this sounds good. I want to thank those who have joined the Pride and supported the show. It's because of people like you why we're able to do stuff like this and upgrade our recording equipment. So thank you very much. Now to bring in today's guest who was recommended to me by one of our Pride members. So thank you for that. And today's guest is Katie Kolb. And Katie, she's worked as a health coach for many years, and primarily, working as a health coach, helping others to establish healthy habits, focus on food and exercise, also bringing in some very important topics like sleep and stress management, time management, faith practices, and mindset changes. Katie is not a doctor, so I want to stress at the beginning here that none of this is medical advice. These are recommendations. You should do your own research and run these by your favorite medical professional. Katie, welcome to Finding Freedom.
Yes, thank you, John. Yes, thank you for the introduction and for the reminder that I'm not a doctor. I have to say that a lot. So yeah, I appreciate you saying that for me.
I have to remind people I'm not a doctor. I'm not a lawyer. Nothing here is advice. This is just this is an entertaining show where you can learn and also do your own research on the things that we talk about today. So before we get into talking about your health coaching and really focusing on some specific areas, maybe just in general, if you could introduce yourself to my audience, maybe share a little bit about yourself, how you became passionate about health and wellness in general.
Sure. Yeah. A little bit of background there. I guess I've always been, I've been a runner for as long as I can remember. I remember in elementary school, doing a little project for the President's Challenge. I think some of you may remember the President's Challenge that they had.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And having my gym teacher just encourage me, hey, when you get into high school, you should find out about that cross-country thing. So I think I've always been interested in the fitness side of things. And then when I was looking at college and kind of what degree I wanted to look into, medical field always sounded interesting to me, but didn't want to go to school for as long as what a doctor has to go to school for, to be perfectly honest, which is why I was looking at some other things and fell into athletic training. So I am a certified athletic trainer. I went to Messiah College and got that degree there. And I think at Messiah College, I mean, I was on the cross country team, just had a lot of fun. Again, always kind of been on the fitness side of things. But to be honest with you, after practices, we would go, Lottie Nelson was the dining hall that we'd go to as a team after practice. And our joke was, we just ran all this. We can eat whatever we want. And truthfully, physically in college, we were able to get away with that. But the more when I went to grad school then at Oklahoma State University for exercise science and education, I was asked to do just a bunch of different research about different things. And I think that was the first time that it kind of clicked in my mind that, hey, I'm tearing my body down every time that I'm exercising. It's a great thing, but I need to support that with healthy eating as well. And my joke about that is when I first got married, we lived in Oklahoma at the time, and Sonic started in Oklahoma. Sonic probably did most of my cooking for the first couple years of marriage, which is embarrassing as a health coach. And if I had taken a picture of my refrigerator today and sent it to myself at that time, I would have not known what half of the things were in my refrigerator, because I grew up, like any other kid in the 80s and 90s, eating the white bread and, a rounded meal, which was great. We got away with it, but learned a lot in grad school and beyond. So that's probably, I think it's always been kind of like my faith journey almost. There was never a turnaround necessarily. It was just kind of, it's always sort of been there and just been evolving over my lifetime. So yeah.
Yeah, I think we have a lot in common there. Growing up, my mom was a health teacher, and we didn't eat poorly. We probably ate better than a lot of other kids during the 80s, but it was still the 80s, and it was still the food pyramid, and following the food pyramid, we're having every meal you had to have sufficient carbohydrates and bread and pasta and all this stuff. And like you said, as a kid, kids in the 80s were more so than today, much more active. So I think we were able to burn it off. But yeah, same with you. It took me a long time to really evolve and start to really, it's kind of crazy to say it now, but really connect the dots with, look at what I'm eating and how I'm fueling myself, and then how it makes me feel. And, how does it energize me in order to, go about my day and get things done.
Yeah.
So can you talk a little bit about your personal journey there as you started to make those connections? Was it, I guess more of a lifestyle change for you, and just you're changing the way you eat, or did you experiment with different diets? If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. And honestly, I think it really kind of harkens back to what we do as health coaches. So in the health coaching profession, it's not necessarily about a prescription. There's not a single thing that's going to work for any person. And generally, and I will say there have been exceptions. So I've been coaching clients for more than 17 years now. And there have been a handful who have completely revamped. So cleaned out the cupboards, threw stuff away, and started from scratch and did well. A handful out of thousands of people that I've worked with. The majority of us do much better with making smaller goals, small steps, and kind of building from there. So again, kind of that evolution that's happened over, for me, 17 years, not necessarily for me personally in the fitness part. That's something that I've always enjoyed, and it hasn't been a struggle. But for me, the nutrition piece, I think I can have some sympathy for the clients that I work with, because it's not easy to, you might know what you should be doing, and you know that intellectually, and yet, you have a bad day at work. So I deserve or you have a good day at work. So I deserve, you know, and learning as the primary, you know, I'm the one who goes grocery shopping, who cooks the meals, who, like, I had to learn where to find things in the grocery store. And so when I first kind of, I honestly dug into the stacks at Oklahoma State. I don't know if they still have stacks at universities anymore, but it's where all the medical, they're not medical journals, but all the research journals were, and did some of my own research in the actual, you know, peer-reviewed journals to verify some of the things that I was learning through some other sources. I wanted to make sure that I was on board, that I could really, you know, recommend this to people. And so through learning that, I decided, okay, instead of going to Sonic as often as I'm going, I had heard that that most families have about 10 dinner meals that they rotate through on a fairly regular basis. So my goal was for each week to try 2 new recipes. To go online, to Google, you know, whatever, and find 2 new recipes that kind of, you know, were more whole foods, were more, just kind of not Sonic. Anything that was better than Sonic would be a step in the right direction. And honestly, after about 3, and there were plenty of recipes that I did not like, that I said, I'm never making this again. But I learned a lot through that, just with 2 a week. That wasn't overwhelming to me. That was doable. And was able to, I tell people within about 3 months, I really had kind of come up with 10 good recipes that I was capable of making at that point. And really revamped how we ate. And that has evolved again over the 17 years. Those have been replaced. And so I don't know if that answers your question, but that evolution of how that happened over time. Yeah.
No, that answers my question. It brings up another question, because I think a lot of people, when they decide to make health changes, so it's January 2024 for those of you listening at a later date. But yeah, we're coming into that time where maybe some people are starting to lose or struggle with that New Year's resolution, and the gyms are starting to empty out a little bit. So you mentioned there that when you were changing the way that you eat, and you were trying to, you know, spend less time, you know, funding the college funds of the owners of your local Sonic, you just started with two meals per week. So is that something that you teach your clients in making changes, sort of just starting with maybe like small changes, and then incrementally over time, compounding that into larger changes?
Honestly, again, I think in my experience, that there are exceptions. I think, again, God made us so unique. There's everybody's different. And so there's no formula. And so some people, I think, do really well with, sure, January 1st, they totally change what they're doing. But majority, I would say 95% of us really do function better when we make the smaller change that's reasonable, that we're like 90% sure we can do this next week or 2, right? So you're 90% sure you can do that, even if it's a small step. Then you get that going, and that becomes easier. And generally, when we're talking about health changes, let's say that one step is, I'm going to drink 4 glasses of water a day, right? So maybe you're drinking nothing but pop. So you decide, okay, instead of pop, I'm going to replace that with 4 glasses of water. It's still not probably what I need to be getting, but it's better. And I can do that. So I drink 4 glasses of water a day. That probably is going to make you feel better and give you a little bit more energy. And so you're going to enjoy that. It's going to become a little bit easier as you get into the rhythm of it. And now not only does that, you have to put less energy into that change, but now you have more energy to put into the next change, whatever that is. So maybe that's going to 8 glasses, or maybe that's having a salad for each lunch, or, you know, whatever your next step is that you're ready to take. And then it builds. It's like a snowball effect, and it builds from there.
Well, like you said, I'm sure, you know, everyone that you're your clients that you're meeting with, everyone is a little bit different. And I think that's part of the problem with like the health industry as a whole is that, when people find what works for them so often, they want to just, you need to do it exactly this way and it'll work for you the same way. And so often that's not the case. So I'm curious, when you do bring on a new client and you're coaching someone, what ways do you determine which is the best way to help them? Is there a sort of like a form that they're filling out in order for you to gather information, or how do you go about that?
Ooh, that's a good question. So, I mean, it's much less about me telling them what to do. I like to say, as health coaches, our training includes, you know, research and research-based information about how our bodies are designed and what works best for our bodies. So certainly we provide, I like to call them kind of evidence-based guardrails along the way. So there are certain things that a client might suggest, and I'll kind of explain, okay, here's the good things I like about that, but then here are the things to be careful about. Here are the things that make me feel a little not so comfortable with that approach. But for the most part, it really is, the coach is the guide, but the client is really determining the path. So we have a lot of conversations about their values and their what their desires are, what they're hoping to accomplish here. It's amazing over the phone how much you get to know people and the challenges that they're having. And, what a stay-at-home mom with 3 children under the age of 5 is capable of, and what works for her schedule is very different from someone who's, well along their professional career and their kids are out the door, but they're out of the house from 8 to 6, 7 at night. So it really is, it's a lot of the client, it's a lot of them exploring what they have available to them, what has worked for them in the past, what ideas they have, and then having the coach guide a little bit as far as, again, 17 years, I have a lot of tips and ideas, but it really does need to be led by the client.
Right. And, I think a lot of people want, maybe it's not a lot of people, but there are some people who I think just want to be told what to do X, Y, and Z, and then this will fix your problem. So I can see, that can be, sometimes could be difficult in order to, kind of lead your client into, down this path so they can make the correct decisions for their health. Yeah. I want to talk about, some other things that are very important outside of just diet. Obviously, diet is extremely important, but things like getting enough sleep, managing your stress. So when it comes to things like that, what types of advice do you give? What types of metrics can people use to really determine if they're making progress in those areas?
Sure. Well, I would say most of the clients that I work with, the metrics that we're tracking maybe aren't directly related to, say, sleep, right? But but in fact, recently with the I'm wearing one, the watches, the wearable watches that we have, there's been some fascinating research over the past couple of years that really correlates, because those watches, I'm pretty sure, were originally designed to track sleep, and then because it was tracking movement, and then they discovered, not only can we track sleep, we can track activity throughout the day. And so then they were able to really correlate activity and sleep, which we'd never really had a lot of statistics on before. So what we don't know is all of the causation yet. It's still a lot of correlation, but there's no doubt that, again, big picture, there are exceptions to this, but big picture, most people who are getting good quality sleep are doing much better with their exercise. Lots of theories and ideas about why that is. I have my own, but yeah, so I would say my own journey with sleep, I'll start with sleep, because that's one thing for me about, gosh, 5 years ago, maybe. I have a 13-year-old. And I want to say it was about 5 years ago. I was not feeling good about my attitude toward my son. I was crabby, just tired and crabby, and didn't respond well when there were challenges. As a parent, you don't want to be the one that's flipping out. When your kid is flipping out, you need to be the calmness, because you're the adult, right? And I was really struggling with that. And thankfully, without too much hesitation, I kind of thought, okay, I think sleep is where I need to start with this. So I actually talked to my boss. I changed my schedule around a little bit, so that I was able to set a really pretty consistent routine. So that's, if you're looking for tips, honestly, that's one of the main things that I recommend when and sleep is so multifactorial. There's so many things that can affect your sleep. But for me as a health coach, some of the first things that we would talk with a client about would be the rhythms. So again, as a parent, we talk about bedtime routines. What are you doing for the hour with your kid? Or you do a bath and then read a story. So you kind of have these rhythms. Well, as adults, that's also helpful for us if we can get our bodies into these rhythms where you have, the screens are off for a certain amount of time beforehand, and you do kind of the same routine, and you do some calming activities. Some gratitude journaling is a great thing. And then going to bed and getting up at about the same time. So I try to go to sleep and wake up within about an hour, even if it's not a work day, just so that my circadian rhythms can kind of keep it going, so that my sleep, when I am sleeping, is really solid, because my body is it knows it's time for bed. It knows it's time to get up, and it cooperates for the most part. There are always going to be exceptions to that. But immediately I was able to notice that my mood, my reactions, and I don't know how, you can't necessarily measure that, but I mean, it was clear to me that made an impact on what I was wanting to impact. But some of the goals that we set with some people, and again, varies from person to person, but sometimes we'll set goals about, having the chime on your phone go off at a certain time to remind you that, okay, it's time to start winding down. Or we talk about the screens, we talk about the temperature of the room, we talk about caffeine and when you're having caffeine. The other thing with sleep is the exercise. So again, there's lots of things that play into sleep, but for me as a health coach, if you're not on a regular exercise program, then that's where you want to start. If you want to get solid sleep, you want to wear yourself out during the day. And that's going to help your sleep. So we talk about that too.
Yeah. And if you are exercising, then it's, doubly important to be getting enough sleep, right? To recover.
Right. For sure.
What are your thoughts, your views, if you have any, on EMF, on electromagnetic fields, and how they could interfere with sleep and potential damage that they could be doing to our bodies, and the importance of counteracting that through grounding? Is that an area where you get involved in?
I honestly don't have a lot of information on that. That's interesting.
Okay.
It's something I'd be interested in looking into. At first, what I do think of is the screens, the light. But yeah, I mean, it could, obviously the screen is also creating electromagnetic fields. So I don't know. That's a great question. I hadn't looked into that.
Yeah, it's an area which I don't know how much of it is real, and how much of it is people just trying to sell stuff. But they have bed sheets that you can, you hook up a cord to it that plugs into the grounding part of your electrical outlet, and there's a whole bunch of different products, and it does sort of inherently make sense to me in that, like, when you go on a vacation, say you go to a lake or you go to a beach, and you're spending a lot of time having your shoes off, connected to the earth. That's how our bodies were designed, right? We're not designed to be walking around in shoes. And by the end of that vacation, most people feel the most relaxed they felt. Now, how much of that has to do with the grounding? How much of that has to do with just not thinking about the real world and your business or your work or whatever you're doing for 5 or 7 days. But I think it's pretty interesting, and it's something I've spent a little bit of time looking into, but I need to look into it more.
But the grounding piece that you touched on, I mean, that for sure. I don't know. Are you also in West Virginia?
I am just a little bit north, just south of Pittsburgh.
Okay. So I love literally my kitchen. I look out over a hillside and see mountains and trees, and it is fascinating, the research. If you want to talk about the stress side of things, you mentioned that earlier. One of the major ways that we're learning more about recently in managing stress is getting it, and they call it nature bathing, if you've heard of that term, or so it literally changes your hormones and changes things inside your body when you are connecting with nature, when you're, like you said, kind of walking in the dirt, even to the point where, and this is not as powerful, but I actually changed the screensaver on my computer for a picture that I took at an overlook on one of our trips when we were mountain biking. And again, not as powerful as actually being there. Another fun story, I'll tell you, a research study that was done, but they found even just looking at images of nature has an impact on your stress and your hormones. And there was a study that was done where they had people walk down this path. And the first time they walked down the path, or maybe it was different people, I don't remember exactly, but you were just listening to the sounds of the birds as you're walking down the path. And then they had them rate their happiness or something like that at the end. And then they had, I don't know if it's the same people or different people, walk down that same path, and they had recordings of birds. So not only were you getting the natural bird sounds, but you're also getting these extra recordings of bird sounds. And the happiness level of the people who went down the path with the extra recordings was even higher. So it's just really interesting. Yeah, being connected with nature has such a profound effect that we don't even fully understand. I mean, we'll never fully understand, probably, but it's really cool to hear about.
100%. And being you're in West Virginia, I'm up in Pennsylvania. This time of year is so difficult with the seasonal affective disorder. We're not getting sufficient vitamin D. It's a real thing.
Like, go skiing. We went sled riding the other day with some friends. You can get outside. I went on a run today. It was miserable. It was 50 degrees and raining. It was awful, but you still feel better no matter what the weather is. I tell people, my husband's a kayaker, and we have pictures of him getting off the river. His beard is frozen. Like, he has icicles in his beard. And so it's less about the weather and more about the gear.
Yeah, that's true.
Get out anyway.
That is true. Yeah. I mean, I haven't done much cold weather running yet this year, but typically I do, and it's just, if you dress right, it's not terrible once you get moving.
Rush to getting home and just being drenched and thinking everyone driving down that road was like, "What is she doing?" There's a rush to that.
Yeah, well, for sure. One of my favorite things to do, and I've only done it a handful of times in my life, is if I can time it right and have the free time to do it, and a snowstorm is hitting, and I can get out to a trail and go for a run in the middle of a snowstorm. It is one of the greatest things. I can't even explain it.
Yeah.
Probably just look like a crazy person running in the snow as it's piling up, but it's a really neat experience. So let's stay on stress and distraction and managing this crazy world we live in with social media for a minute. So you mentioned, or I mentioned during your intro, maybe I didn't. I was supposed to. I might have skipped it. But one thing you focus on with some people is faith, and you referenced your faith earlier as being very important to you. I'm a Christian. My faith is very important to me. Do you feel in your personal health journey, and I don't know if you expand this into your coaching practice, but do you feel like you use prayer and your faith in order to really, limit some of these distractions and stresses that we have in this world?
I would even take it a step further and say it's the foundation for all of it. It's one thing to be, as a health coach, helping people to make lasting health change. When I'm working with someone who does have that faith component and we're able to take it to that level, the you talk about the airline when the airlines having problems and the oxygen mask comes down. I'm sure you've heard this analogy before, right? You need to put the oxygen mask on yourself before you can help anybody else. And as Christians, I think we have this complex where we're always trying to help everybody else. As moms, again, I work with a lot of moms. Our focus is on our kids, so we're always worried about making sure they have what they need, and so we're eating the leftover chicken nuggets, or we're not taking the time to go for a run or to get out in the snow or whatever it is to take care of our own self and our own health. And that's a detriment. And as Christians, it's because God cares for us that we're able to take the time and the energy to care for ourselves, with the purpose of, sure, I mean, a lovely side effect, I'm going to feel better. I'm going to probably look better and feel better in my clothes and things like that. But the ultimate purpose to be, I'm available now I have the energy to be a good parent. I have the energy to take care of people. I'm on the what's the word, the giving side of it instead of the receiving side. Not that if I'm sick, it's a problem and it's not good that someone's caring for me. But if I can be healthy more often, if I can be helping my friends move, if I can be helping my elderly neighbor shovel her driveway, those are the kinds of things that I'm free to do because of the health choices that I'm making, because God cares enough for me to take care of this. I kind of went roundabout with that. But yes, so I think that's the foundation. But it also is, I mean, you talked about the mindset thing, the stress thing. It underlines everything. We set goals even about different scripture verses that you can memorize, that when you are going for the I deserve food, you can counterbalance that with that. And when you are stressed and you're not responding well to different things, that prayer, or even like Christian community, where you're talking to a friend who can help support you in that, all of that. So it comes into stress, it comes into sleep, it comes into nutrition. It comes into all of it. If you are able to, if you're a person of faith, there's a whole nother level of support that you have. It makes it lasting and fun.
I think it all comes together. Faith, taking care of our health. What's the saying that you can't take care of others unless you're taking care of yourself. Unless we have ourselves right, we have our own soul right. In order to reach out and give to others, we need to do that first. So one thing I did want to talk to you about, we've talked a lot about eating right, really managing your stress and using faith to do that, but stacking on to be able to optimize health in today's modern world. I, for one, I take a lot of supplements as well.
Okay.
Because I'm a believer in soil depletion, and it's a lot harder to get the nutrients that we need, and there's all kinds of toxins that we're exposed to on a daily basis. So, is that something that you subscribe to as well? Are you someone who believes in supplementation?
It depends. So truthfully, it's not an area that I'm an expert in. It's not something that I've spent a lot of time really researching and looking into. I do think that supplements are helpful in certain cases, especially if it's helping you to avoid medications. There are, supplements that you can take that can help you need less of the medication or to not need medication. Again, not my area of expertise. But I would say too, as long as someone is seeing supplements as exactly that, it's a supplement to an already pretty darn good nutrition program. So I work with a lot of people who, when we first get together, they feel like they're doing really well because they're well supplemented. And so they're telling me, oh, I'm getting all my greens from this green shake drink thing. I know it's made from XYZ, whatever. And that's fine. I'm not saying that's a bad thing necessarily, but if you're doing that and then you're not actually eating real food, that's a problem. Because we don't know. It's funny, if you look like over history, I don't know how long ago it was when we first discovered vitamins, when scurvy and the guys in the ships were getting sick, and they decided, okay, we need to make sure we have oranges on the ships so these guys don't get scurvy. So we learned about vitamin C, vitamin D, kind of those basics. And so then they decided to put those in supplements so that then you can be healthy, right? But what we didn't know from those supplements is, so now a couple of years later, actually it was probably decades later, we discover, there's these things called antioxidants, and when they were researching cancer, and these antioxidants help to fight different things. So then we decide, okay, we're going to supplement those. And now we learn 10 years later that now there's these phytochemicals that we didn't know about. So what are we going to discover in the next 50 years that and by the way, so oranges and fruits and vegetables and whole foods have all of these things in the right combinations. And anyhow, so all that to say, I'm not necessarily against supplements at all, but you want to do your research, making sure that you're getting quality supplements, making sure that they're
100%.
doing what you want them to do, and that you're not using that as an excuse to say, well, I can have Sonic because I'm taking care of my vitamins, with the supplements. So
yeah, that's a great point. Especially, there are so many supplements out there that are, they're healthy supplements that are loaded with artificial sweeteners and all kinds of other junk and fillers. And if you're doing that, you're probably doing just as much damage as you are good with that type of supplementation.
And usually the supplements that are quality are more expensive because they're which is tough, honestly. Again, I live in West Virginia. Economy here is rough. There are people that they struggle. If you're going to spend your money on something, spend your money on healthy foods, and the supplements are going to be a supplement to that. So
100%. I should ask you this next question first, but I just thought of it.
Okay.
So when you talk about your own personal health journey, who have been some influences on you? Books you've read, or certain individuals in the space? Is there anyone that comes to mind that is someone who you've learned a lot from?
Oh, gosh. Over 7. I mean, there's so many. I'm going to have a hard time narrowing it down. I would say I've learned, okay, well, just to get kind of personal. So my husband is a strength coach at West Virginia University. Brilliant guy. So I reference him a lot. So I go to him when I have lots of questions about specific things, because he knows his stuff. And he grew up in a weight room because his dad was the strength and conditioning coach for the Steelers. So, and he still is very, and he's still very into, we have video of him, wasn't too long ago, doing, and this is, so my husband's dad, so I want to say in his 70s, I don't know for sure. He's doing windshield wipers. So you're hanging from a bar and your legs are swinging back and forth, right? So the guy knows, not only does he know his stuff and he teaches his stuff, but he also lives his stuff. And so John Kolb is another guy who has really been an influence on me and my fitness journey. And so that would be kind of maybe on the personal side of things. Some books that I've read, gosh. Honestly,
it's tough because I was just trying to think. There's actually a book I'm reading right now, and I was like, I can't even think of the name of it. Like, I'm reading it right now.
I needed a list ahead of time here.
No, it's fine.
There's a lot of good ones, and I'm drawing a blank at the moment. But yeah, I can tell you, I mean, but I will say it gets a little, I'm not a political person at all. And it gets a little kind of political and although my husband, anyhow, conspiracy theory kind of ish, but the China study is kind of a classic that that was written a while ago, but still a lot of truth in that book. That's probably one of the foundational ones that I've read.
What I am not familiar with that. What's a elevator pitch on that
Elevator
book?
pitch for China study. Okay, so T. Colin Campbell, I want to say it was back in the 70s. They were doing research on in China because, gosh, see, again, I've probably read this book 3 times, and I could be quoting it wrong, so please bear with me. But I think that the concept was they were doing a study in China because in China at that time, there were definitely pockets of people who ate very uniquely, and they didn't really travel around much. So that was why they were able to really get some good data from China, because people kind of grew up and died within like 20 miles of where they lived, and they all ate the same in those 20 miles. And that might have been very different from what the next town over ate. And so they were doing a study about, I think they were trying to find out about protein, and ended up being that the cancer rates of people who were eating more of a plant-based approach were so much lower because of I don't know, I don't remember all the details, but I do remember that was kind of the concept. And then he goes into some political stuff, but it started off with, protein is important. There's no doubt about that. But getting your protein from animal products versus getting most of your fuel for your body from plant-based foods was really cancer preventative. Not only was it cancer preventative, but it was also, even if you were exposed to carcinogens, those foods gave your body what it needed to, again, the antioxidants that we learned about, so that was kind of how that study, so that's the gist. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So last question here. Is there anything that, maybe I haven't asked you today, or something that you just want to sort of double down on and make sure people understand, that you'd like to share with my audience, that you feel is, really important to leading a, holistically healthy lifestyle?
Let's see, what have we not touched on? I mean, I guess maybe the one thing we haven't really talked about much is the relationships part. Again, fascinating research. And there's been a book, so another resource. Here we go. Oh, what was it?
All right.
The Blue Zones.
Yeah.
There was a documentary not too long that they put out about the Blue Zones, and there's a lot of different factors to it, but one of the main things that they have discovered through the Blue Zones is, relationships are important for our health. So and in today's culture, right, like that to me is an interesting concept that I feel like we struggle in our culture with relationships because we've become so digital. And so sometimes that is honestly a goal that we will work on with clients is, text a friend, set up in fact, when I do speaking engagements, when we talk about, what are the things that fill your cup, what are the things that fill you so that then you can fill others, right? Almost always what I hear from these ladies is, having lunch with my friend, or going to the mall with my sister. It's less about the activity and it's more about building those deep relationships. So it's important to have surface relationships too, just people but having people that you can really share the hard stuff with and know that they're going to be with you even though, and then being able to be that for somebody else. Right. So there's times when I need support. I need someone to listen to me whine. And I can't do that to everybody. And that's wise. I shouldn't be sharing that with everybody, right? But I need to have those kind of people that I can share that with. And then I also need to be, when I'm in a safe place, when I'm in a good place, I need to be the one that someone can call at 4 a.m. when they need to whine to somebody and get, so relationships is another, probably one of the other key things that are important for your health.
Yeah, my guest last week, Chris Spangle, and this isn't a direct quote, but he was talking about, really in today's world where we spend so much time on our phones, our kids, our family, instead of us interacting with them at the dinner table or when we're hanging out, people are on their phones. And, think of it this way. Think of, spend your time, be present with those who are going to be at your funeral, not with your Twitter followers and your Instagram followers and your Facebook friends who, they might, put a heart on a post when you die or something, but they're not going to be there. There's no personal connection there. So, it's so easy to get lost in this digital world that we live in. Not that these digital relationships aren't real, not that there's not value in them. There certainly can be, but putting more value on those real ones, those ones that you can reach out and touch.
Yeah, that makes a difference. They're doing more and more studies and research to prove that you'll live longer and you'll live healthier and happier if you're the kind of person who has developed those relationships. Yeah, it's fascinating. It's really cool.
Yeah. Really fascinating stuff, Katie. And thank you for coming on the show and sharing with my audience. Before I let you go, could you share any plugs that you have? I don't know if you want to share a link to your health coaching business or anything else you want to let my audience know about.
Sure. In my private health coaching business, I primarily work with busy Christian moms who are just wanting to adopt, simple, sustainable health habits to allow them to feel good in their bodies, to love the bodies that God gave them, and to have the energy to be, all in for their family. So if any of your listeners kind of fall into that category, they're welcome to. I'd love for them to check out my website. I am on Instagram. I am on Facebook. They can check those out. It's Katie Kolb Health Coach katiekolbhealthcoach.com. It's that simple for the website. I'm pretty sure if you Google it, you'll find it. So, would love to hear from you and see if what I do would be a benefit for you. So thanks. Yeah. Appreciate that. Right.
Katie Kolb, thank you for coming on Finding Freedom.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thank you, John.
All right. That concludes my interview today with Katie Kolb. Hopefully you all learned something new today that you can apply in your own life for your health, for your faith, just so you can make a little progress, a little self-improvement to be a better person tomorrow than you are today. I will provide the links that Katie talked about there on the show notes page at lionsofliberty.com. As I said at the top of the show, using a new microphone today, so hopefully it sounds better. You can let me know how it sounds. You can reach out to me if you want to. John Odermatt at lionsofliberty.com, and also through that same email. If you do have guest recommendations, you can send them there as well. And lastly, I'll say it one more time. Would like to have you more involved. Would like to have you on the Lions of Liberty Pride team, as we say. I don't know if we say that. I'm saying that now. But you can, by joining the Pride, you get bonus content and you get other perks, of course. Joining at the Mufasa level, we have a monthly call with our supporters to talk about whatever you want to. So that's all I got for today. I will see you all next week with another awesome guest. In the meantime, always remember to keep your head up and the fires of liberty burning.